I would like to welcome everyone to the July 13th meeting of the Gaston County Board of Education. I'm Kenny Lutz, Chairman, and to my left is Mr. Ramsey, the Vice Chair. Also, we have with us tonight Mr. Dedman from the Gastonia Township, Mr. Upchurch from Cherryville Township, Ms. Roberts from Dallas, Ms. Guthrie from Gastonia, Mr. Collier from River Bend, and Ms. Cherry from At Large. Our first order of business tonight will be our prayer and Pledge of Allegiance, and I would like to ask Mr. Booker to lead this.
Thank you. Let us pray. Oh, gracious, merciful Father, we just thank you for the many blessings that you have bestowed upon us in this great country. Lord, as we come together, we ask that you watch over us and guide us. Be with us as we work to do your will in the business of the Gaston County Schools. And we ask a special protection on our staff as they spread across, getting the much-deserved rest as we prepare to come back for another school year. We just thank you for the ability to speak with you and to be together. We ask all these in thy holy name. Amen.
Amen.
If you'll stand and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Mr. Booker. Our next order of business will be to adopt the agenda. Everyone should have that in front of them. Take a look at it, and this will be an action item, and I will need a motion for this. Ms. Cherry is making the motion.
I am.
And I'll second, please.
Mr. Ramsey has seconded. Any discussion, questions? All in favor? Okay, it is unanimous. Thank you very much. I will now turn it over to Mr. Booker for good news.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the board. We have a group of individuals that every day shows up and makes the school system a better place. And we too often don't pause to recognize the hard work that they do and the professional standards that they adhere to. And so throughout the years, we've had a number of folks obtain a certification that is granted by the North Carolina Association of Education Office Professionals. And the current leadership of their organization said, you know, we've never brought a group before the board to be recognized. So tonight we have a few ladies with us tonight to be recognized, but they represent many folks who in the past years have received this certification, and we hope many folks who will continue to get it in the future. So tonight we have with us, and I'd like to ask them to come forward at this time, Julie Hunter, Marie Carlton Taylor, Pam Dellinger, Beverly McCombs, Jackie Hall, Cindy Guthrie, Darlene Oakley, Wendy Waller, Sandra Whitmire, Charlotte Wright, Tanya Young, and Vicki Welch. Did I miss anybody sitting out there? Great. Now, as they stand before you, recognize this takes 60 hours of continuing education as well as volunteer work at the local, district, or state level. So we have another group that received this as well, and we'll get their certificates to them. But we just thank you all for what you've done, and we have Ms. Cherry has certificates for you.
First of all, thank y'all. I've worked with a lot of you, and I appreciate everything that y'all do. And for you gentlemen, we appreciate all you do, but look. All these wonderful ladies, don't know where y'all were, maybe at the beach, but thank you so much. Thank you for all that you do. Thank you for all that you will continue to do for us, especially these board members, because I know that each one of y'all have probably gotten a call or two from each of us, and we really do thank you. So on behalf of Mr. Lutz and Mr. Booker and the rest of the board, we want to present you with these certificates. We will come by and make sure that they're hanging in your office. So Julie. Thank you very much. Marie. Usually I have help. Sandy. All right, I get to keep her. Sandra. Pam. Let's see if I can do it by myself, Charlie, today. I know I'm just a lowly board member. Beverly. Jackie. Sorry. It's Monday. Charlotte. Tanya. Darlene. Andy. It better be you.
That was me. Thank you.
Big round of applause.
I get 7 in the back and 5 up front, please. And then the people up front. Don't be shy now. And then if you would, up front, if you can just take your certificate and then be like that, and then come in, bend it backwards.
Backwards?
Yeah, just like that, yep.
Huh?
Charlotte, you're hiding.
Come on, Charlotte.
Just everybody scoot down just a little bit. Make sure I can see your faces. Sandra, there you go.
Smile, Charlotte.
Smiling. And one more. Thank you.
Sean acts like he does this.
I know, he does.
Another board wants to thank y'all. Whoa, 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 whoa. Yes, she's
And again, I want to thank all of the folks in our district who have taken time to get that certification. It just shows the dedication runs throughout our organization. Also, while the summer is out, it doesn't mean teachers and students have stopped learning and achieving. The Ashbrook Air Force Junior ROTC proved themselves to be one of the most recognized high school units in our region. They attended a week-long leadership program at Commerce College in South Carolina, and the competition was against 21 other schools. Not only were they named the most physically fit unit, they also had the highest scoring male and female cadets and earned 12 different awards. So they're to be commended for the work that they are doing there. Also at the Highland School of Technology, a team of 5 rising seniors placed 5th in the nation in the Capitol Hill Challenge, an educational investment competition. Highland competed against 742 schools from across the country and turned a hypothetical $100,000 investment into just over $150,000 in 14 weeks. These students showed their interest in learning finance and looked to start an investment club as we return to school in this fall. And then finally, many of you attended our robotics competition back in the spring. But as part of that, the Belmont Middle School had a fundraising component for Holy Angels. They started out just trying to raise money to purchase a few iPads, and you'll recall they developed an app for the children at Holy Angels. But they went on to be so inspired and get the community involved, they ended up raising just short of $2,500 for that. So that's just a few of the good news. I'll encourage everyone to remember that we try to post articles out on our website under the district news and as well as our good news pages. So it's great. And Mr. Chair, that is all the good news for tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Booker. We do not have anyone signed up for public expression, so we're going to move on down to the next item, which is the approval and correction of minutes. I think everyone's got the June 1st and the June 15th minutes, and we'll take a minute and look at those, and then we'll need a motion for approval on the minutes.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion to approve the minutes for June the 1st and June the 15th, 2015.
Thank you, Mr. Ramsey. I have a motion. Ms. Cherry has made the second. Is there any discussion or correction that anyone thinks that needs to be made, or we need to do anything with those minutes? Seeing no action, all in favor? And it is unanimous. Thank you very much. The next item on the agenda is a budget update, and I know we're always looking forward for a budget update, and poor Mr. Hopkins has to come back up here again tonight.
Good evening, Chairman Lutz, Vice Chairman Ramsey, members of the board, Superintendent Booker. I just want to go through a brief budget update. First of all, a look at the budget calendar. Nothing has really changed since we met on June 15th. The board did adopt the interim budget, and we're now waiting on the General Assembly and the governor to approve the state budget. So we are on target to get our budget resolution approved on September 21st so far. Also, look at the state budget update. Again, we met on June 15th. That was the day that the Senate actually approved their version of the budget. Since then, the North Carolina House and the North Carolina Senate have formed conference committees to resolve the differences between the two bodies of government and the legislature. And by the way, this past week, the General Assembly was not in session, so we haven't had any news recently. Also on June 29th, the General Assembly did approve a continuing resolution budget, which essentially provides funding for the state through August 14th. This is a short-term budget measure. The continuing resolution does provide funding similar to what we had last year. It also adds funding for ADM growth. However, it eliminates $25 million of non-recurring funding for teachers' assistants that we had last year, and also no funding for driver's ed that we had last year. So just a brief, really a thumbnail look at the differences between the three bodies of government, the governor, the House, and the Senate. The total budget for public education in the state of North Carolina last year was $8.1 billion. All three bodies have agreed to fund ADM growth, which totals about $100 million. There's also some agreement between the three bodies on increasing starting teacher salaries from $33,000 a year to $35,000 a year. However, there's some other differences in other salary areas, which is why you see the differences there. The biggest difference is that the House has a 2% across-the-board increase for all education personnel. So once you take those two items out, what you're left with is any incremental changes in our funding, because ADM growth is going to cause additional expenses. Salaries will not add to our expenses beyond that. So our other budget adjustments, based on the governor's budget, we're going to get about $75 million of additional funding for public education. The House, that number jumps to $168 million. However, the issue is, and the thing that we've been working to try to prepare ourselves for, is the $80 million decrease in Senate funding. So as I mentioned earlier, the Senate and the House are in negotiations, and you can see the Senate's at $168 million, or I'm sorry, the House is at $168 million and the Senate is at an $80 million cut. So if they come together and meet somewhere in the middle, we're going to be fairly flat compared to where we were last year, and we'll be able to be okay with a flat change from last year. So that's where the budget situation is right now. We're hopeful to get something close to the governor and the House proposal, but right now we're making preparations for the possibility of some cuts. But that's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Hoskins. Anyone have any questions for Mr. Hoskins?
Mr. Chairman, I will add, Gary touched on the fact that driver's education was not included in the continuation budget. What we have taken as a leadership team is that we have children who are already signed up and are in process. Over a third of the districts in the state of North Carolina stopped providing driver's education when that legislation passed. We have elected that we have children that are signed up and we've committed, so we are continuing through August while we wait for the budget resolution to occur. From beginning September 1st, we'll have to revisit that discussion, but for now we're trying to continue with our classes.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, Mr. Collier.
So to be clear, if we get a phone call as board members, what is our cutoff date for taking students?
For children who are already currently registered and had classes, we are continuing, but we have not been enrolling and starting anyone new as of September 1st.
So if they're not enrolled, we're not taking any right now.
September 1st. We'll get folks through the summer.
Yes, sir, Mr. Dedman.
I heard you say that we are required by state law, but how do these others districts just say they weren't going to do it?
Mr. Dedman, you bring up a great point. With my colleagues, that's what we decided. We read the general statutes that it is mandated we provide driver's education. Now, some folks immediately imposed larger fees and things. We have just continued to provide at this point.
I thought the state said you couldn't go more than $65.
That is correct, 65. But some, just as you all have allocated that we will start doing 25, some who had been less immediately went to the 65. But we at this time are still continuing to provide the
So
services.
we have to really offer it to our children next year. So I didn't want parents to follow up on Mr. Collier's
Yes.
comment. Okay,
It'll
thank
just
you,
be
sir.
determining the speed and process at which we can.
Any other questions?
Just had a quick comment. I was going to comment on your picture. I enjoy that.
Thank you.
What public education can do for you.
Thank you, Mr. Hoskins.
Thank you.
The next item on the agenda will be food, beverage, and supply bids. And Mr. Holler will be presenting this.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Vice Chairman, members of the board, Superintendent McGlowan, I would like to recognize.
McGlowan?
I did it on purpose, Mr. Board. I was seeing if you were paying attention.
Good job.
I would like to recognize Frank Fields, our Director of School Nutrition, and he will present the item food, beverage, and supply bids for our school nutrition for this next upcoming year. Thank you. Frank?
Thank you, Mr. Holler, members of the board, and Superintendent Booker. Annually, we do a bid process for all of our food, supplies, and different categories of foods vendors. This is typically done in the spring for the following year. Our bid periods run usually from August 1st through July 30th or 31st. Each year, so that gives us time to use existing contracts to satisfy our summer feeding needs and those type of products, and then these will become effective essentially as we start to procure for the coming year. This year, the largest category, as usual, is the food items, the general groceries, and this is a line-by-line item bid so that every product is evaluated separately. The primary bidders were U.S. Foods and Reinhardt Food Service, and U.S. Foods won 71% of the items in that category. This bid does only run through January 31st, 2016. There are rollover contingencies in the bid contract so that vendors can roll those prices through the remainder of the year. We do that so that because food prices are so volatile, it gives them the opportunity to lock in for a 6-month period, but not for an entire 12-month period. Market conditions can make that difficult, and we feel like we get better pricing by giving them a shorter period of time in the rollover option. We also, of course, our second biggest single category is produce. We've seen that grow from $200,000 5 years ago to almost $800,000 this past year. It's a big point of emphasis, fresh fruits and vegetables. We're pleased, actually, that Foster Cavanis, a very large distributor out of Greensboro, has won that bid this year. We've worked with them extensively in the past and look forward to the coming year where they will be able to help us reach our goals with locally produced North Carolina produce. They're a front runner and a leader in those initiatives. Also, our bread products, general supplies are spread among 3 different companies, and primary Southeastern Paper getting 85% of those category items. Bread products, as our produce, it's a one vendor only, and Bimbo Bakeries, formerly Sara Lee, formerly Earth Grains, formerly Waldesian Bakeries. It's really turned over quite a bit, but they have been a good partner and are really about the only partner available. And it's gratifying that actually they lowered their prices slightly for us. A little surprising, but gratifying. Beverages and water are things that are compliant. It's not Pepsi-Cola, it's not Coca-Cola, it's Minute Maid, it's Dasani water, it's Aquafina, things of that nature. We find that those are the most acceptable to have some branding for the kids on their a la carte items. And then ice cream, again, a sole distributor, Paul's Distributing, has been a partner with Gaston County Schools for 20-plus years and do a great job. They also have the contract with our schools for their smart snacks, which are direct sales to the principals and those sales. And bakery and cook chill are very specific items to our operations there. So I will entertain any questions you may have and ask for the board's approval of these contracts.
Any questions? Yes, Mr. Collier.
Thank goodness they're the smallest items on the list at the bottom, but the bakery, cook, and chill, and the ice cream. Has ice cream gone up that much, or is it just a
Ice cream has
demand?
increased significantly, and part of that is that they've probably suffered the most in having to reformulate and retool their products to be able to comply with USDA school lunch program nutritional requirements. So that's really driven the cost up to be able to find products that meet those parameters and at the same time are acceptable to kids, yes.
Again, the dollars are not that big, especially in the scope of all this, but 35% increase just kind of grabbed my eye for ice cream.
And they've been holding the line for a while, and I feel like they felt like they needed to finally to get a better reflection of their cost, and so that is why. But fortunately, it is a smaller category.
Mr. Dedman.
Mr. Fields, does the ice cream fall into the category that you have to wait till after lunch to sell it? Is that me too? And is it real ice cream? Like wheat bread or something? I mean, is it?
It is real ice cream. It doesn't have the butter fat of your Ben & Jerry's. It doesn't have as much sugar as some of your premium type products. The products that we sell in the cafeteria can be sold anytime during the meal service, but they are exactly the same products that a principal may sell later in the afternoon as a little bit of a fundraiser. But they match up exactly, actually.
Okay. Any other questions?
I have one more.
Yes, sir, Mr. Dedman.
Have you had some contact with the principals about things that they can sell? I know that you all have had some meetings, so they know exactly what they can and can't sell.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
We worked with
working with them to help them, because it's really difficult. The way to run a school these days, you have to have some fundraisers, and it kind of stretches out when you take the drink machines away and the cracker machines. And what's so unfair is that you can stop down here at the convenience store and buy a 85-ounce Slurpee and walk into the building with it, but you can't buy a 16-ounce Sundrop or a Coke or a Pepsi. And I know that's not your fault, Mr. Fields, but that is unbelievable to me that they can do that. So,
Well, Bill Bradley with the finance department has put a great program together with Smart Snacks, and I anticipate that growing and getting.
So I want the principals to have every opportunity, and the teachers and their clubs to be able to make some money. Okay, thank you.
Absolutely.
Any other questions?
I don't have a question, but I do have a comment.
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Fields, first of all, I want to thank you for your commitment. And secondly, I want to thank you for meeting the summer feeding needs of so many children here in Gaston County. Your rules are clear. Your staff is precise.
Yeah.
They know and tell us exactly what we need to do in order to meet the guidelines.
They do the same to
But
me.
more important, but I am just amazed at how cooperative and how informative they are. I was a peon, new at this. And of course, we had a little program at my church. And we went through the training. We did everything that you asked us to do to adhere to the rules. But I just want you to know that you help so many children who wouldn't get food or snack during the summer. So thank you so much for that compassion.
I'll be sure to
I
share that with
appreciate
my
that.
staff. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
This is an action item, and I will need that in the form of a motion. Mr. Collier?
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion to adopt the bids as presented in our information on page 21 of our board book.
Thank you, Mr. Collier.
Mr. Chairman, I would like to second that motion.
Ms. Guthrie has made a second motion. Any discussion? Seeing no discussion, all in favor? And that is unanimous. Thank you very much, Mr. Fields. Yes, Mr. Holler, you've got a couple more items.
Yes, sir. Thank you for a little bit of humor to start with. Just to follow up to Ms. Guthrie's point in that last item, I'd like to also say thank you to Frank and his staff. They are wonderful in terms of keeping us in the regulations, keeping us where we need to be with food and nutrition requirements that are very, very complicated. So I'd just like to, on my behalf, say thank you too. Mr. Chairman, Mr. Vice Chairman, members of the board, Superintendent Booker, your next item is school year procurement plan for 2015-16. And I would again recognize Frank Fields, our director.
Thank you, Mr. Holler, members of the board, Mr. Booker. This item is a requirement by the State Department of Public Instruction as a part of our annual agreement to administer the school lunch program and school breakfast program. They require that we have a in-writing, well-defined procurement plan for all the categories of purchasing that we do. This is something that it basically is used a template provided to us by them, but then made it specific to Gaston County School Nutrition, and it hits all the categories of purchasing that we do, and also takes into account local requirements and federal requirements for purchasing, so it encompasses all those under one umbrella and touches all those bases as to who is required to bid which items, how often, and what the limits and thresholds are for different types of bidding, either invitations for bid or requests for proposals. So with that, if there would answer any questions, it's a fairly lengthy document, but again, it really just follows up and puts sort of officially what we do before the board for your consideration.
Is there any questions for Mr. Fields? This is an action item, and I will need that in the form of a motion. Mr. Collier?
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion that we adopt the 2015-2016 School Nutrition Procurement Plan.
Thank you, Mr. Collier. I have a motion. Do I have a second? Ms. Cherry has made the second motion. Any discussion? All in favor? And it is unanimous. Thank you, Mr. Fields.
Thank you, Mr. Lutz.
Mr. Chairman, the next item that the Operations Division has is the item entitled Ryan Elementary School Closure Update, and would ask that you would approve Mr. Lutz and Mr. Booker the authority to grant a bid award to the lowest responsive and responsible bidder to do the demolition of Ryan Elementary School.
All right. Does anyone have any questions for Mr. Holler on this particular item?
Mr. Chairman, I might add, excuse me, Mr. Dedman, this may answer your question. I might add that the bids will open next Monday, and that's in order to get a timely award. We didn't want to wait until your meeting in August, so we'd like to move forward with this item.
Thank you, Mr. Holler. Mr. Dedman?
That's what I was going to
And I think, and this is an action item, and I'll get to the fact that we need to have a motion, but I think everyone needs to understand, when you decide to close a school and you decide to demolition a school, it's just not as easy as driving out there with bulldozer. It takes a while to get everything out of the building, and you've got to abate things, and you got to smile, and you have to laugh, and you have to cry, and everybody has to go through their processes. So we appreciate you trying to get ahead of this, and it is going to be a sightly thing to have to see that done, but we do appreciate that. And from past experience from Mr. Collier, I think you're probably the only one that can remember. I'm glad we're getting this out of the way, because I think we still have buildings around the county that we're still waiting for this to happen. Okay, saying that, I need that in the form of a motion. Ms. Cherry?
I've got one question, though.
Yes, sir.
How
Yes,
quickly,
ma'am.
once we get the bids back, will this process begin?
We hope.
Are you anticipating?
We anticipate by the time school starts, we will have some work moving in that direction
Okay.
to take the building down.
Yes, Ms. Cherry.
And that we allow y'all to begin the process of the bids.
Thank you, Ms. Cherry. Do I have a second? Mr. Dedman has made the second. Is there any discussion? Mr. Collier?
Mr. Chair, I'd just like to point out that they're going to leave the track at that school. And for anybody watching or paying attention, that we're tearing up concrete, a lot of demolition, but we're going to leave the walking track there.
Yes.
Just want to make sure that everybody understands that.
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Collier. Seeing no other discussion, all in favor? And that is unanimous. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And while we're passing out a few compliments, I'd like to compliment my colleagues on the cabinet for making sure that we had a timely transition to move out of Ryan Elementary School. Together, we made that happen, and I'd just like to say thank you to all the departments in the school system that cooperated with that kind of complicated and time-consuming move. Mr. Chairman, the next item in the operations area is the Warlick Academy roof replacement item, and that is before you. We have the bids there, and would recommend that Mecklenburg Roofing be awarded that bid.
Thank you, and thank you, Mr. Holler. This also will be an action item. Is there any questions for Mr. Holler at this time? Yes.
What's the time frame on how long this will take?
75 days is the estimate, weather permitting, and not, we don't mess up any kind of testing in the beginning of the school year, anything that would impede instruction, so.
Okay. Any questions? Ms. Cherry? Oh, you have, like to put that in the form of a motion?
I move that we accept the Mecklenburg roofing bid.
Thank you. We have a motion. Do I have a second, Mr. Dedman? Any discussion? All in favor? And that is unanimous also. Thank you, Mr. Holler.
Thank you very much.
The next item on the agenda, I believe, should read School Health Advisory Council, and I think Dr. Baltnight will be presenting. And this is an information item.
Good evening, Chairman Lutz, Vice Chair Ramsey, Superintendent Booker, members of the board. I would like to first introduce our new Director of Health Services and School Social Work. She will be completing our presentation tonight. We actually have two that we're going to share with you. After we complete the information item on SHAC, then we have one about immunizations that will be next.
Good evening, Chairman Lutz, Vice Chairman Ramsey, board members, and Superintendent Booker. Tonight, I would like to provide an update to you on our school Students Health Advisory Council, SHAC, and the North Carolina Health and Human Services immunization requirement for the 2015-2016 school year. You will see before you the 3 dates we've identified for the SHAC meetings this school year. We have meetings for only 1 hour, and they're always held at lunch. Okay, the focus for the 2015-2016 SHAC committee is childhood obesity. We will continue to work through those endeavors. And partnerships are very important to this committee and this council. We could not do the work without the members that are on our committee, and you will see you have a list of the council members in your folder. They are members of the health and educational sectors in Gaston County. The partnerships that we have developed enhances our ability to work with the students in the community and to meet their health needs in a more timely and proficient measure. So if you have questions about any of those, I will entertain those at this time. Okay.
Any questions from the board?
Okay. Now, immunizations updates. Okay. These are our new immunization requirements for the 2015 through 2016 school year. You will see that it's increased, well, the Tdap now we will provide for the 7th graders and also the meningococcal vaccine. And those are the two only changes that we will have this school year. Okay, any questions with that? Okay.
And this immunization is an action item. Is there any questions?
Chair?
Yes, Mr. Collier.
This is to make sure that we're in line with what the state is requiring us to do. Is that
That's
correct?
correct.
Okay.
Okay. Any other questions? I will need this in the form of a motion. Mr. Upchurch? Thank you.
And I'll second, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Ramsey has made the second. Any other discussion? Comments? Questions? All in favor? And that is unanimous. Thank you very much. Yes,
I would like to welcome Mrs. Worthy to Gaston County Schools, and we look forward to the wonderful work that we know that you're very capable of doing, and you have a super supervisor there, so welcome to Gaston County Schools.
our next item on the agenda is K-8 instructional resource, and Mr. Cook will come forward for that presentation.
Good evening, Chairman Lutz, Vice Chairman Ramsey, Board of Ed members, and Superintendent Booker. One of the areas of curriculum instruction that we focused on the last couple of months is looking at the number of assessments that we administer in each of our grade levels, the frequency of those assessments, and the quality of those assessments. Over the past couple of months, we've used a vetting process of our classroom teachers, our directors, our curriculum facilitators, school-based principals to determine the products that we currently use and how can we make sure that we ensure the highest level of student engagement and student achievement. As we've gone through this process and looked at various support pieces that are already in place and trying to narrow the number of companies and resources that we use, we have found one that we think will really benefit and provide a great level of student engagement and certainly benefit our teachers with the tools that they have the opportunity to use. In doing so, this company is Compass Learning. Compass Learning is a sole source provider, and because of that, and we want to use certain products that they currently have, I bring that before you this evening for your consideration.
Thank you, Mr. Cook. Do we have any questions concerning this from Mr. Cook? Mr. Collier?
I'm sorry, how do we pay for this outsourcing?
Comes out of our local budget. And that's a good question, Mr. Collier. This company will actually replace two current companies that we use. So one of those companies went bankrupt this past year. So we'll be saving, we hope, somewhere in the neighborhood of about $25,000 to $45,000.
So the new thing that we're using is actually going to be $25,000 to $40,000 cheaper than having purchased the two things that we currently are using.
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions?
I don't have a question, I have a statement.
Yes, ma'am.
I want to say that I am extremely pleased to hear what you have done with the student learning management, and I think this is going to give our teachers the opportunity to monitor and to track what's done in the classroom, because we all believe in excellence. And in order to do that, we must have the essential tools for measurement. So I want to thank you for the hard work that you have done in gathering your research and facts regarding this.
Thank you, Ms. Guthrie. And I just give credit to, we had a lot of people involved in this process across the district in a lot of different departments, but thank you.
I just spent a whole day with training with Canvas student learning, and I know how difficult it is, but yet the tools are awesome. So we look forward to seeing what's going to be the outcome here.
Thank you.
Any other questions, comments?
And thank you for saving us money.
Yes, exactly. Thank you. This is an action item. I will need this put in the form of a motion. Ms. Roberts?
I'd like to make a motion that we approve Compass Learning Center as a single source vendor to provide certain digital resources for our instructional support.
Thank you, Ms. Roberts. I have a second from Ms. Guthrie.
I would like to second that, please.
Thank you, Ms. Guthrie. Once again, is there any other questions or comments? Seeing no questions or comments, all in favor? And that is unanimous. Thank you, Mr. Cook.
Thank you.
The next item on the agenda is our consent agenda, and this will be an action item if everyone's had a chance to take a look at this. I'll be glad to try to entertain or get you the right person if you do have a question. Yes, Mr. Collier.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented in our board book.
Thank you, Mr. Collier. Ms. Cherry has made the second motion. Any discussion or comments, questions? Seeing no questions, all in favor? And that also is unanimous. Thank you very much. The next thing is the superintendent comments.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm going to pass out documents here for you all. What I'm passing around is a document that is the first report produced by an organization called Education NC. They are a bipartisan organization that has been put in place 6 months ago to try to bring light to public education in North Carolina. They present articles that are written from both political perspectives, as well as try and cover current events that is impacting North Carolina education. And so I encourage everybody, you can sign up and get like a daily mailing from them to highlight articles. They'll pick things up from the News and Observer, Charlotte Observer, Gaston Gazette, et cetera, as well as just covering the goings on in Raleigh. Their website is ednc.org, but it's an excellent way to keep abreast of what is going on with education in North Carolina. And so just wanted to make you all aware of that. I want to thank our community for the support. We have started Camp Achieve, which is part of our summer reading program, and we have over 1,000 students enrolled in that program. And while we provide the service, it doesn't occur without the parents and the community supporting us, with the children being present and attentive and ready to go. And you all touched on the summer feeding. That program works in conjunction with this program. So we're giving children meals at the same time that we're providing them with education. And so that's a great program that we're able to do. When you saw your report tonight on the SHAC committee, it's a catchy name, but it's just part of the commitment we have as an organization to work on health in our community. We have a lot of partners, as you see from what that group is made up of, and our student services team and the work that they are doing with the whole child is really impressive. And I encourage you, when you have an opportunity to attend one of their meetings, you'll be really informed with what is going on. Lastly, for tonight, Dr. Kim Maddox, this is her first meeting with us, so we welcome her to Gaston County Schools as our Assistant Superintendent. Okay. And Ms. Guthrie has another item.
Yes, I cannot let this meeting end without sharing this with you. On Friday afternoon, I received an email from NEA and from the school library representative. NEA just finished their annual meeting in Orlando, Florida, and from this point on, they are going to develop a study to show the importance of school librarians in everyday curriculum. The importance of having students access school libraries, and the importance of school librarians embedding their information into curricular areas. So I applaud NEA for recognizing the importance of school librarians, and I applaud and support whatever Gaston County is doing in our schools to spotlight the school librarians, because we know, as it was taught years ago, the library should be the hub of the school. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Guthrie.
Mr. Chairman, I would ask for a closed session for personnel, please.
Thank you, Mr. Booker. I will need that in the form of a motion. Mr. Upchurch.
Yes, sir, Mr. Boots, I'd like to, a motion to go under, for closed session under North Carolina General Statute 143-318.11A6 for personnel. Sorry, Mr. Collier.
I'll second that motion, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Collier has made the second. Any discussion? All in favor? That is unanimous, and we'll be taking a 5-minute break before we go We're back in open session, and I would like to recognize Mr. Booker.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Members of the board, I'd like to make the recommendation of the following hires as assistant principals: Jada Warnock, Dina Oman, Nakasha Glenn, Christine May, and Bobby Neely.
Okay, I need that in the form of a motion. Ms. Cherry?
Move that we accept these new hires as assistant principals.
All right, thank you, Mr. Collier.
I'll second.
I have a motion, I have a second, and is there any discussion? All in favor? That is unanimous.
Thank you. Members of the board, I would like to recommend for the executive director position in instruction to hire Jody Edwards, please.
Thank you. I will need that in the form of a motion. Mr. Collier?
Approve the motion for Jody Edwards, Executive Director.
Thank you. And Mr. Dedman made the second. Any discussion? All in favor? Okay, unanimous. Mr. Booker?
Members of the board, I'd just like to let you know that with the vacancy of Jody Edwards moving from Costner Elementary, I would like to approval to transfer Lana Beam from Cherville Elementary to serve as the principal of Costner Elementary School.
Make a motion.
Mr. Ramsey has made that motion. Do I have a second? Ms. Cherry? Any discussion? All in favor? And it is unanimous.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, that creates a vacancy at Cherville Elementary, and I recommend Sean Hubers to serve as the principal of Cherville Elementary.
Okay, I'll need that in the form of a motion. Mr. Upchurch?
Make that motion.
I need a second. Ms. Cherry? Any discussion? Seeing no discussion, all in favor? Okay.
Thank you, members of the board. It is the summer where we still have folks actively interviewing, and I'll try to keep you apprised of any other changes that we may have that occur. So, thank you.
Any other more recommendations on?
It closes any of the new appointments. I would like to ask the board for the ability to extend the contracts of all of cabinet members through 2019.
Would that be specifically June 2019?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Collier?
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion to extend the following contracts through June 30th of 2019. W. Jeffrey Booker, Dixie Abernathy, Melissa Balknight, William Cook, Mark Holler, Cindy Matson, Kim Maddox, Sonia McGraw.
Thank you, Mr. Collier. Do I have a second? Ms. Guthrie? Is there any discussion? Any discussion or questions on this? All in favor? It is unanimous.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
The one other thing that I'd like to mention, I did not forget Mr. Ramsey's birthday last week, and I wished him a happy birthday. But as a board, we would like to wish Mr. Ramsey a birthday on July 8th. He is very old. Any other discussion or questions that anyone has? Seeing no questions, Mr. Collier?
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion to adjourn.
I have a motion and I have a second for Mr. Devon. Any discussion? Seeing no discussion, all in favor? And that is unanimous. We're adjourned.